Greetings. Today's talk focuses on two primary things. The first item we wanted to emphasize today is the Tesla top secret China plan. And this is actually a 2.0 of that discussion. And the reason for this is that we actually did some more research to go with our China analysis and determined there was a whole bunch of new information that we wanted to add to our earlier discussion that I think sheds different light on the China operations that are going on in Shanghai. The second thing that we wanted to review today is how do the implications of these vehicles in China impact the company, as well as how I want to say China is looking at taking over Tesla kind of works. This is Greg for Teslafaninsight. Thanks once again for joining us. If this is your first time on our channel, welcome. If you're a repeat visitor, welcome back. Wanted to also thank our Patreon supporters as well as our subscribers for your support. And I also wanted to note that I can see all of you, including Sean, when you say hello, but our viewers have asked that we delay any activities. Josh just made a note about Tesla report deliveries day, and if you guys see any numbers, we would love to be able to comment on that if you want to fire off. So today is a little bit strange. We did a show a couple of days ago called Tesla China Secret, and I'm calling, it's 95,200. Wow, that's a very good number. Thank you, Sean. Awesome number. I'll throw some comments in on the back end of that because that is terrific. So today's conversation focuses on the fact that there were some data points that I was really stunned by after reviewing them. Our last show was primarily based on the fact that it was announced that Tesla is going to be offering a 10% drop in the number of there's going to be a 10% cost reduction for the Model 3s coming from China versus the Model 3s emanating in the United States. So we were like, wow, if your average car is $50,000, $60,000, that's, call it $5,500 per vehicle reduction in costs, plus the reduction in cost relative to tariffs. And that's a significant reduction in the price of Tesla, therefore allowing a very large number of Chinese to now be able to afford that vehicle. And that is awesome. So so our show was primarily just based on that data point and the fact that Tesla would have a hard time shipping vehicles both to China and possibly other parts of the world if they could save $5,000 per vehicle times 50,000 vehicles. Those are significant dollars that the company really needs. So we went back and did some research, and the goal of the research was really to identify what other data points in this told us more about what's really going on here. The first item that made zero sense to me was Elon Musk. Initially, when this plant was announced, the target production was in the range of 200,000 units. Elon Musk in the last few months, particularly after the last earnings, announced that actually the capability of the new manufacturing plant was somewhere between 500,000 and 1 million vehicles capacity to be produced at that facility. And I was like, wow, that's a very big number than the original 200,000 vehicles that were being talked about. And a whole bunch of questions popped up, which were namely, okay, Elon, I know that Tesla is loved in China. It's still a fairly expensive vehicle, even at the lower price point. And what makes you think that, well, there are all these questions that popped up. I don't know if you guys know this, but there are like 100 different manufacturers of electric vehicles that have popped up in China. And there's a primary 50 evidently. And one of the new pieces of data is that the government has gone from providing all kinds of subsidies to help large numbers of Chinese manufacturers get in and stay in business, to now they're starting to roll back those subsidies And one of the impacts is there's a company called NIO that has seen its stock price crash, and one of the billionaires losing $1.2 billion in cash in the process. So we were like, well, wait a second. Why is it that Elon is so confident that he can push between 500,000 and 1 million cars a year in China? And, if you dig into it, there are a bunch of variables. One is the Chinese have started reduction in the subsidies being provided to their companies. Number two, I want to call it fake EVs. BYD is the largest manufacturer in the world of EVs. In the U.S. and other places, they're doing buses and trucks and garbage trucks, etc. And they're a very large player in vehicles. But if you look at the cars that have been primarily sold by the manufacturers in China, they've really targeted that 100-mile range vehicle that gets you into the marketplace, but is not a high-quality solution. So what's kind of happened is that the Chinese population has in essence said, hey, we like foreign quality, and when it comes to electric vehicles, we're interested in foreign quality there as well. And if the price point comes into the range of reasonable, we'll buy in large numbers. So Elon made a few interesting comments. Number one, we're targeting somewhere between 500,000 and 1 million vehicles sold from the Tesla factory in Shanghai. And I was like, wow. As you all probably know, China's a 23 million a year vehicle. Number two, Elon indicated that there are plans to reduce logistical nightmares to actually open up in the future, new Tesla factories in other locations. Number three, I'm sort of powering up here. So, number three, he highlighted that, wait a second, we also have, so the 500,000 to 1 million units were targeted just for the Shanghai plant, and he's talking about putting up new factories in other parts of the country to support the growth of Tesla sales in those other locations as well. And I was like, wow, shocker, because when you boil it all down, it all comes down to the battery. And the fact of the matter is that there is no domestic manufacturer in China that provides a battery solution that allows them to be Tesla competitive. So it's not a shock that the Chinese government has now decided that it's going to move towards, to some extent, abandoning current domestic suppliers and sort of bringing Tesla in almost as an in-house China brand. I mean, there are all kinds of data points that support this, including the fact that Tesla isn't required to have a local partner like others. Another data point that pops up is that Elon Musk announced that it was $500,000 or $500 million to get this plant rolling, and that they had a limited amount of capital, so they wanted to limit their exposure to the marketplace. I'm kind of shocked because $500 million in the auto business is like 20 bucks is to us. It's a very low number, and Tesla having to put in that little is another sign of the commitment that the Chinese have made. So I'm kind of shocked, amazed, stunned by the fact that there's a Tesla plan in terms of getting the plant built and starting to sell cars. I thought this meant 100,000 or 200,000 vehicles a year. But if you're building a plant that allows you to go between 500,000 and 1 million vehicles a year, which is basically all of Tesla's production currently capable, that's pretty amazing how that might affect sales, how might that affect revenues, etc. The third thing that I'm stunned by, and it feels to me like China is going into takeover mode of Tesla in terms of through the back door, is as we were reviewing the whole issue of the Tesla secret plan in China, there was one other data point that came up, which is something called accounts payable and accounts receivables. So there are different ways that the China government can participate, and they are in a seriously interesting position right now, which is not only do you find out, you just built a plant. There are other issues like that plant has to be equipped, and also have supply chain. So they've just announced that they're actually building 30 miles from this factory, in essence, a supply chain village or industrial area to support the supply chain of Tesla. I am very impressed by this because it encourages Tesla to buy locally, and with the Chinese government tacitly involved, I'm expecting Tesla to have some fairly large accounts payable to customers, if you will, discounts. And what I mean by that is the Chinese government can simply say, hey, we could just sit there and give you 60, 90, a year-long terms for everything you put in that factory because you're good for it, number one, and number two, we want your company to grow and succeed here. So if Tesla lets get this out of hand, you could obviously have some serious liability to the Chinese government going on there. But again, we've talked about this before where China math is a little different than math in the United States, because in China's view, if you're creating 40, 50, 100,000 jobs for Chinese citizens and products that are going to help the China economy do better, you basically are riding a curve that they feel is really critical and important, and therefore they're willing to put up large amounts of capital at very preferential terms to get you to move into action, which is the case here with Tesla. The one last data point I wanted to explore on this whole area before we jump on to other topics is Tesla/Elon Musk had a quote where he indicated that they're seeing a 50% decline in cost inputs when it comes to this new factory in China. Now, I was kind of shocked by that number, but one number you have to take out of there is that the batteries are still being made by Panasonic and represent typically 40% of the cost of the car. So let's call that about $25,000. The other inputs are going to be impacted by labor costs. So if you go heavy dreadnought, in theory, you'll be running a lot of machines and less people, plus you have lower cost people when it comes to operating in China. So all of this said, the suggestion then is that the overall cost structure for that plant is going to be lower. And with the discussion of a 500,000 to a million unit production capacity, it smells to me like we're going to be not only producing Model 3s, but Model S's and X's and Model Ys when they come out, all of which will start out by going to the Chinese market, but that'll be available for global supply chain for Tesla going forward, given the size of the capacity that's being built up. So I'm kind of shocked, stunned, amazed. This is top secret, but it looks to me like Elon has a good sense of what the Chinese are trying to accomplish, which is they have their pollution goals in mind, and the local suppliers haven't shown an ability to match the Tesla capability. So the Chinese government seems to be going all in every way possible to help Tesla be successful. We won't know the answer to this question, but one of the fascinating back ends that's starting to emerge is all the metrics on Tesla and where its stock price is assumes that the current structure of the company when it comes to cost, when it comes to manufacturing capabilities, number of units produced, all that's driven by where the company is now. The question mark is if China decides to weigh in and in essence throw in $10 billion of accounts payable or receivable, that's not a big deal. Factory expansion that's reflective of the vehicle being very cost effective for consumers to get a 200 to 300 mile range vehicle in that 30 to 40K range. You all of a sudden have the potential there for Tesla sales to explode, and the capex or manufacturing build out costs that you would expect to slow the company down as it's been doing in the United States kind of don't exist anymore, which allows Tesla to get all the benefit of that growth without all the costs in the form that we just described. So stay tuned. As this plant opens, a whole bunch of new restructuring of how Tesla operates will start occurring, and we could grasp the $5,000 reduction per car, but if all the other inputs outside of the the battery pack are rolling at a 50% cost reduction. Our $5,000 estimate of cost reductions for that manufacturing facility could be kind of low. And what if that 50% reduction in cost inputs is actually real and is realized through the vehicle? I mean, you could have a mind-blowing situation where a Chinese Model 3 ends up being 10 or 15 grand cheaper than the one from the United States. And this further moves us towards the argument we made earlier, which is that Tesla is in a position now to do some huge shift of production to China, allowing them to make more money per car and rapidly head towards profitability thanks to their footprint in the Chinese market. So we're going to dig around for more information on this. We'd love to have any comments from Sean or others that have rolled through, but I think this is a really interesting turn of events and could hugely impact Tesla's short and long-term future as we find out more details. So happy to hear naysayers. All the data I'm giving you is coming from commonly seen news reports, and China seems very focused in making sure Tesla enters the market very strong and is successful in doing so. And we haven't even gotten to the fact that in 2021, China has mandates for the degree of percentage of electric vehicles available. All manufacturers, Tesla doesn't have to worry about that, while the Europeans and others do. So I wanted to, finishing up on this whole China section, we will be revisiting this as we get more information to refute or support what we've analyzed. But wow, having the Chinese pocketbook wide open to Tesla facilitates growth in revenue and sales in a significant way, and I'm very impressed by what's happening and the potential. The next thing that we wanted, 1,000 units produced and sold. Wow, very large number. As you may recall, the forecast was for 400,000 vehicles over the next year. So, and the last quarter was a 60,000 unit production situation, which was unsatisfactory from a lot of angles. I'm intrigued because the bottom line is that this is a great number production-wise. It suggests that there's no demand issues going on. The next question that pops up is not only how are we doing in terms of production numbers that have been produced, but also are those are we stuffing the channel, meaning vehicles sitting on ships, on docks, or are they delivered to customers? I mean, those are questions that will be answered as we get towards the actual earnings and, the whole thing is wound out. But congratulations to all the folks at Tesla for delivering at this level, and it's exciting to hear because I think it should give a pump to the stock and a suggestion that, there's a lot of demand there for the products of Tesla across the globe. I'll be particularly fascinated to watch places like England and other places that are newly getting their, getting their vehicles going. The next, the next thing that we wanted to review with you guys is, in general, it's mind-blowing to me how we can have so many sort of backdoor issues pop in to support the success of Tesla. And in this case, the China relationship and how this plays out is significant and big time impacts where we're going. So congratulations to Tesla on the 95,000 produced. We're excited about that, and we're grateful because we want the company to succeed and have more of an impact in the manner that they're doing. Now, I haven't got a photo of it, but I may make it our photo image. I got a chance to ride behind both a really nice Porsche 911, fairly new, and a Tesla in the rain recently. And the wind tunnel footprint, as you can see, rain coming off the both cars, was completely different for Tesla. And I just wanted to note it to you guys as a photo that you might want to take a look at, because the wind tunnel on the Model 3 is actually pretty awesome and worth seeing, to better understand the advantages Tesla has in motion and in design, and therefore impacting the success of the firm. Any rate, looking very much forward to comments that you guys might share afterwards. Please remember, I'm about to do my 20 leg lifts. Um, uh, Bob, thanks for the comment regarding a link on seeing the Tesla in the rain. I had this thing going where I'm driving, I see 1 or 2 Model 3s a day, and I will or won't take pictures depending on what I see if it's something that's not commonly seen. The in the rain look at the Model 3, from the rear as the rain is coming backwards off the car. I haven't seen many photos like that, but I think what I'll do is dig one up so that we can post it in different places for you guys to enjoy the look difference. So, the introduction, so thank you all for joining. Regards, and please leave questions and comments at the end so we can respond. Thanks and have a great day.